Tonight on the Chillstream, we find out who's going to win the Ukraine war. Mark Zuckerberg moves one step closer to the White House, and Andrew Tate's legal troubles continue to mount. That and so much more, all coming up tonight on the Chillstream. All right, we're back. StreamYard, just a quick show note. StreamYard's gone back to using the green screen, so I don't see myself and I don't know what I look like. So I guess whatever, there was too many complaints. So it does feel it's that weird, just keep going because it's probably going to work thing. But to be honest, I really prefer seeing myself as feedback because that way it just seems more normal. This really does seem like shouting into the void. Anyway, welcome everybody. Welcome back to the Monday Night Chill Stream. It is Monday, June 25th, I believe, 2023. And there's just so much stuff going on that it's tough to pick what's important and what's less important. But I've done all the hard work for you, and together we can figure out what is going on. So in the intro, I mentioned a little something about who's going to win the Ukraine war. Well, we got a little video here. It's about 58 seconds. And it's about our old friend or a new Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock.
This man is one of the most powerful people in all of finance. You have probably heard of the controversial money management company BlackRock, but not their founder. Larry Fink is the founder and CEO of BlackRock. Fink got his start by creating baskets of mortgages, car loans, and other forms of debt and selling them to institutions. This was the start to his massive empire. If you didn't know, BlackRock manages $9 trillion in assets, and Bloomberg predicts them the top $15 trillion in just 5 years. BlackRock was hired by the U.S. government to help with the 2008 bailout, hired by the U.S. government to help during the COVID-19 bond buying program, and just recently hired by Ukraine to help with the post-Russian Ukraine war rebuilding efforts. But this is where things get interesting. BlackRock has large stakes in the largest companies in the world. Therefore, they have tons of power when it comes to shareholder votes and board seats. Larry Fink essentially has massive influence in every large company in the world. Critics have said that Fink uses his influence to push his personal agenda, not better these companies. Follow me for more interesting finance stories like this one.
There you go. BlackRock determines who gets to sit on the board of directors of all these public companies that they control a lot of their stock, and that's how they force behavior. Last week, I showed this video. I'm not going to show the whole thing. I'll cut it short. But here's Larry again.
That's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
Oh yeah, at BlackRock, we're forcing behaviors. The way they're going to force behaviors is do what we say or die starving and homeless. And people might accuse me of being overly hyperbolic, but it isn't really that hyperbolic. Larry Fink, who got his start by bundling together all of the debt slaves in one box and selling them off to investors, is the number one financial power on the planet. Interestingly, the first company that was not a Chinese company that was allowed to sell mutual funds in China was BlackRock. So BlackRock can go to China and get access to their financial markets like that. Why is that? BlackRock is literally right next to the money printer. BlackRock is, it's all cantillionaires. It's old people who are absolutely closest to that spigot. And what they get is enormous power, enormous advantage over everyone. But so last week they came out with the all the stuff about the Bitcoin ETF, and so this is pretty much, this meme is an older meme, but this is what the world really looks like at the elite level. At the elite level, everyone's turning away from the dollar and everyone's looking towards Bitcoin. Obviously, it's the meme that's a the dude staring at the chick in the red dress while his girlfriend, his shocked girlfriend, looks on, and that's going to be the shocked girlfriend with the U.S. dollar sign where her face is. That's going to be a lot of people, because reality is things have changed drastically. So here's another quick article. Deutsche Bank, the largest bank in Europe, has applied not only for an ETF, but they're also going to custody your Bitcoin. They're applying to a license to, I don't know, European Central Bank or whatever, to custody your Bitcoin. This happened just days after BlackRock announced their Bitcoin ETF. And then we have this. Fidelity Investments and Charles Schwab have opened a new crypto trading exchange called, I think they're calling it FDX, not FTX. But Fidelity Investments has about $4 or $5 trillion under management, and they just launched a new exchange. Then we got this quick tweet from Preston Seich. He says, I'm sorry, but after watching BlackRock, Fidelity, Citadel, Schwab, and now Deutsche Bank all apply for Bitcoin ETFs, spot exchanges, etc., only a few days after the SEC drops a TRO, which is a temporary restraining order, on Binance and sues Coinbase, how you cannot think this entire past year was a giant inside job coordinated between Wall Street parasites and government regulators so they could catch up. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely an accurate read of this. All of this, Virgil Doc, Purple Heart, welcome to the show, sir. All of this is not a coincidence that days after BlackRock announces that they're applying for an ETF, gee whiz, we sure hope we get it. Everybody else comes, they all come tumbling out of the clown car, one after another, after another, after another. And what do they know that you don't know? Well, they know that things are not looking great for the U.S. dollar, and we actually have that. We actually have that on video. 1 minute video from the dorks over at Simply Bitcoin, but still I use their stuff. So here's Janet Yellen in her official testimony.
and the world is looking for an alternative. And of course, at Simply Bitcoin, what are we going to say? Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said to expect a gradual decline in the dollar's share of global reserves. Her comments were in response to de-dollarization questions during a congressional hearing, and she also said the dollar will remain dominant as most countries have no alternative. They're saying the same thing all the time, that, hey, you don't like the dollar, well, what else are you going to go to? The writing is clearly on the wall, and the fact that Janet Yellen is talking about this, the fact that Jay Powell and every other bureaucrat out there is scared of de-dollarization just shows that, imagine the conversations they're having on the back end on this. You can tell that there is a very real currency war going on, and we've been covering this for a long time. We've been bringing the receipts on the show a lot, and people have been giving us kind of flack. They're like, oh, the dollar is going to maintain its power for a long time. And it's like, yeah, we understand this, but I think the cracks are showing, and the world is looking for an alternative. The answer is simply Bitcoin.
So the kid's right. You know, Bitcoin's not ready yet. It's not ready to take over the world, but the battle has been joined. The fact that Bitcoin and now Deutsche Bank and Fidelity and all these other big corporations have embraced Bitcoin, and they've done it in that public way, but they've also done it privately. Bank of America, right? Bank of America recently increased its exposure to MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is that guy Michael Saylor. He's the one that was the original guy to put all the Wall Street money into Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, ticker symbol MSTR, owns or controls 140,000 Bitcoins, which at today's exchange rate is probably something like $4 billion. At any rate, Bank of America increased the amount of MicroStrategy stock it was holding by 47,000%. So up until 2023, Bank of America really wasn't very interested in MicroStrategy. But the first 3 months of this year, Bank of America has been buying MicroStrategy stock, like it's going out of style. And why are they doing that? Are they doing that because they think Michael Saylor's a smart guy, because he makes these intriguing YouTube videos? Do you really think that that's where they're doing it, or do you think they're doing it because they know that the largest publicly traded pool of Bitcoin is in the company MicroStrategy, in their treasury, and they want access to that. They don't want to be far from that. And right now, because the SEC is not done with Coinbase and Binance and all the regulations, that none of that's been worked out. But Bank of America, they don't want to wait. You know what I mean? They want exposure to the type of growth that only Bitcoin can bring. So the best thing they can do is buy MicroStrategy. The other one you could buy, because MicroStrategy stock is like something like $300 a share, which some people might be intimidated by that, but I wouldn't be. There's another company I've mentioned it before, Marathon Digital. Where's my stuff on Marathon? Marathon Digital. Marathon Digital, which is a whatchamacallit. Where it's a subsidiary. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll there and trying to find my stuff. It's a subsidiary of Marathon Oil. And I said in the past, listen, Marathon's never going to sell their Bitcoin. I was wrong. Look, I'm going to admit how wrong I was. Can't believe that I'm going to admit it. I was wrong, but I'm looking for the specific news article so I can put it up, and that way. It's not, crap, that's not going to work. Never mind. And I just knocked myself off my own stream. Oy vey, and I'm not even drinking yet. Can you imagine? Marathon sold 550 Bitcoins in order to buy more Bitcoin mining equipment. I had an article that they made a tweak to their software, and that software tweak, what that did was made their mining much more efficient. So their mining is like 366% more efficient this year than it was last year, and they still hold about 12,000 Bitcoins, but that stock is only like $12. So that would be, it's much cheaper than MicroStrategy, and of the publicly traded Bitcoin companies that actually hold their own Bitcoin, Marathon Digital, MARA is the ticker symbol, is second behind, a distant second behind MicroStrategy. So the dollar's in decline. They admit it, and but their attitude is, well, what are you going to do? Because you're not. What's your alternative? Where are you going to go? And the answer is a bit longer. What am I going to do? Okay. Well, first off, let's do this because it's funnier, and I'm trying to rebound from that knocking myself off my own stream embarrassment. So I'm going to deflect and show how things are embarrassed. People have been embarrassed by Bitcoin in the past. I'm not embarrassed by Bitcoin. I'm just embarrassed by my fat fingers hitting the wrong button on the screen at the wrong time. Anyway, take a look at this.
This terrible price action in crypto has given us pause and forced us to ask a tough question. Should we continue to cover Bitcoin? And the answer is sadly no. So today we're having a funeral for Bitcoin. Where do we think Bitcoin is right now, Dan?
It's shaping up to be a pretty hot late spring, early summer for Bitcoin.
HODL Bitcoin, digital gold, outperforming both the S&P 500 and gold in 2021 for the third year in a row.
Bitcoin is a good hedge against global turmoil, against central banks, etc. It seems to be coming to fruition right now.
Let's talk a little bit about Bitcoin for a moment. Bitcoin must be some sort of a squeeze.
Fair value for Bitcoin is between 25 and 35,000.
Let's start with Bitcoin. Rebounded back to above 25,000. Hadn't been there in a while.
Bitcoin absolutely ripping at the start of this week.
Turns out Bitcoin is on pace for its best quarter in 2 years.
Bitcoin has been one of the biggest winners in 2023, rallying more than, get this, 80%.
So in 2018, they had the funeral for Bitcoin, right? Like literally CNBC. How much did they have to eat their words that they have to cover it every single day now? Every single day, they're going to talk about how close is BlackRock to getting its ETF. Is it 45 days away? Is it 240 days away? What's this going to mean for price? Blah, 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 blah. And, when BlackRock announced, Bitcoin was like 25 or 26, and now it's just above 30,000. So Bitcoin tends to expose frauds, and it tends to humble you. It really, really tends to humble you. And all these people, all of whom they work for traditional finance. They work for, they work for the BlackRocks and Wall Street. I mean, that's essentially who they work for, right? But Bitcoin is an entirely different thing. And Bitcoin, whether you see it or not, or whether people understand it or not, because it's been giving the blessing by BlackRock, it's not magic internet money anymore. It's not money for your pot dealer. It's not terrorist money. It's not boiling the oceans. All of that is gone. All of those things you heard in all the previous years, they're all gone. Now, it's a beautiful orange coin embraced by BlackRock. And you should hand over your life savings to BlackRock, because they know more about this Bitcoin thing than you, and they can guide you safely to whatever it is you think you want to get. But by allowing Bitcoin as an investment, a legitimate investment in the American market, they have they've just finished themselves, because now people are going to have a choice between Bitcoin and Wall Street. So here's a 1-minute video on how Bitcoin is an existential threat.
I mean, political. I can't come to another conclusion, right?
Yeah, Bitcoin is an existential threat to fiat currency. They're not all smart enough to know that, but some of them are. They're going to throw sand in our face for as long as they possibly can. We know that to be the case. But, you know, in turn, we just keep marching along. You know, every 10 minutes there's a new block, and, you know, we own sound money. They don't.
Lawrence, is it too much to say that governments today are actively price suppressing Bitcoin in the hopes of slowing down adoption enough to implement central bank digital currency regimes?
I do know that the odds, you know, when it took off in the fall of 2020, when it went from kind of in the 5-10K range and shot up to 50, I mean, you can just bet that every single finance ministry throughout the world said, holy shit, we got a serious problem here.
And I think he's overall, he's right, you know, and that's Lawrence, I can't remember what his name is. He's been in Bitcoin for a while, maybe not the smartest guy. This next guy I'm going to show is Jeff Booth, really one of the very smarter guys that's in the Bitcoin space, and he's thought about it pretty deeply. And Bitcoin versus the world of dollar-denominated debt.
The existing system is going to get a lot noisier because it's at risk of something that offers better results to the planet. There will be a fight against that system. And if Bitcoin could be stopped, then it would have already been stopped. The existing system we live in is 10,000 times bigger than Bitcoin today. Bitcoin is more decentralized, more secure today than it was last year, year before. That's why it transitions the world to this new path. I don't think about Bitcoin price going up just because it should describe all other things inside the system, and it can't be manipulated. So it's all other things falling in price against Bitcoin over time.
So that's a good way to think about it. All other things falling in price relative to Bitcoin. So what would that mean? When Donald Trump was elected, the fall of 2016, Bitcoin was $650. And if you wanted to buy a house in America back then, average house price was probably like 350,000, right? So 350,000 divided by 650 is like, well, I don't know, 540 Bitcoins. You would have needed 540 Bitcoins to buy one house when Donald Trump was elected. Well, today you only need about 15 Bitcoins to buy that same house. Everything that is not Bitcoin is being repriced by Bitcoin. You're seeing it the way people get inflation wrong by thinking the price of gasoline is going up, the price of hamburger is going up. It isn't that the gasoline or the pound of hamburger is going up. It's the same as it was. It's the same as it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. The only difference is how much money you need, how many dollars you have to hand over to get that gallon of gasoline, to get that pound of animal protein. People don't see it correctly. It's very, very hard to get them to see it correctly. But hopefully the people that tune in every week on this channel start seeing the world in the proper way, because everything in all the media you've seen, everything is designed to keep you a slave to a monetary system created by a rootless cosmopolitan elite. And they're going to stay on top forever, and you're going to be a debt slave. You may be at the bottom of it, you may be in the middle of it, you may be at the top of it, but you'll always be a debt slave, and you will never have the ability to do what you want to do, because they'll crack the whip one way or another, and they will stop you, or you will do something like those Titanic people. There was the thing all over the news on those the guy who built his own, that wasn't really a homemade submarine, it was a homemade submarine to go down to the Titanic, and he took 5 people down there, and they all died. Judas Fly Chai, the based Persian Muslim guy. Welcome to the show, Judas. Haven't seen you for a while, man. You've been slacking. You've been slacking. You're usually here spamming the chat like a psycho, and then you take time off. And I worry about you. You know what I mean? I don't want you. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. I don't want you to go down in the submarine to view the Titanic, and because you're like, hey, James said that the Rothschilds blew up the Titanic with dynamite in the hull. I'm going to take a submarine journey, in an untested submarine that some guy, made out of carbon fiber and titanium, and take a look. I don't think you should do that. Okay, and I don't think anyone's ever going to do that ever again. It's a bizarre ending to a lot of this Titanic stuff. Absolutely bizarre. But the people who died in that tragedy, and when they die, it's a tragedy. Like when guys like me, or from my social class, when we buy like high-powered motorcycles and go racing down the road and kill ourselves, which happens literally every spring. We're low IQ thrill seekers who are riding donor cycles. You know what I mean? And we deserve our fate because we're so foolish. But when multimillionaires go down, go down in a homemade submarine made out of carbon fiber by a guy who doesn't really have a lot of background in building submarines, then it's a tragedy. Oh, then we lost these poor people, and they were all super high IQ and super rich. But every now and then, the consequences of their actions catch up. And in the case of these 7 people in the submarine, the consequences of their actions, they wanted a story to tell at their next cocktail party. You know what I mean? Like that seems like, whatever. That's as trivial as a 16 or 18-year-old kid buying a super fast Japanese motorcycle, that he can't handle, and going down a highway at triple-digit speeds and smashing into some solid object and killing himself. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just rarer for the elites to actually to face any sort of consequences. In the chat, Judas Fly Chai, why do women dress so immodestly? This is part of the breakdown of society. It really is, because they don't have any of the traditional female skills, feminine charms. They can't cook. They can't hold a conversation. They've been trained to be angry and complain all the time and to criticize men. And they've done this in the name of empowerment. I'm going to be empowered. Girl power, girl boss, and what that's created is an enormous class of basically of cat ladies. They're the future cat ladies, literally, of the planet. When I was a kid in the 70s, the radical thing for women getting married, because they were still getting married back then, was I'm not going to take my husband's last name, and somebody pointed out that the joke of that is the wife keeping her last name is the wife just using her grandfather's name. So they've been sold a total bill of goods, and they don't know what to do. Human beings, listen, all human beings really require relationships, hopefully they're a healthy relationship where people are satisfied with what goes on, but we're social creatures, and women more so. I don't know, more so than that, but women are certainly more open about it than men. And they're lost. They're desperate. They're watching themselves get older. They're seeing all these images on TV and various different media of other people who are happy doing things that these women fantasize doing, and they can't understand why can't I get that? Why is that not available to me? And the reasons, listen, there's a lot of reasons. A lot of them are like I said, a lot of them are unfit. You know what I mean? They're grossly overweight. They're unpleasant to be around. A lot of reasons, and they're not. There's no cultural option for them to go, you know what? I'm going to be I'm going to watch my diet, and I'm going to exercise, and I'm going to have, I'm going to learn something about the world and be interesting and fun, and that way men will be attracted to me. They're just, they haven't got that message. That brings me to Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate, which I mentioned, he's like the Jordan Peterson for the MMA set, even though like he was a kickboxer and he had 72 fights, but there were 72 fights against tomato cans. They weren't real opposition. So Andrew Tate recently was arrested in his home country of Romania for human trafficking and some sort of indecent activities with minors. So because Andrew Tate in 2017 once said 3 kind words about Bitcoin, this is a news article where they explain literally nothing, but it's funny.
The money that they say they want to seize from the Tate brothers included €52,500, $17,000, £10,000, but also over 21 million Bitcoin. For those of you who have followed the value of Bitcoin, that works out as nearly $400 million, over 21 million Bitcoin.
We just want to be holding the Bitcoin. There's never going to be more than 21 million of them. There's never going to be more than 21 million of them.
This 21 million number is quite literally transcendental. We can't touch it. We can't change it. We can't do anything about it.
Bitcoin is just money, 1/21 millionth of everything there's ever going to be. In 1,000 years, you're going to want to own 1/21 millionth of everything there is.
So, all the signal to noise, right? Signal is fact-based, good information that's going to help you, and noise is people shilling different products, people trying to get you to misdirect you away from what's important. And this show is about directing you towards what is important. Judas Fly-Chai, I don't like Andrew Tate. I don't like Andrew Tate. And I don't like, what's his name, Jordan Peterson either. But you can keep both of them. You may keep both of them, sir. Put them both in the same bucket, and toss that bucket, out. So in terms of noise, this is like there's a ton of noise around Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk, he's the billionaire everybody loves. Oh, he's so smart. He's such a genius, this and that. And no one ever dares criticize Elon Musk or short his stock, short Tesla stock, because that's going to go badly against you. But Elon Musk, the current owner of Twitter, and I remember when they kicked me off Twitter, I actually was like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? And since then, like a few other things in my life, when something ended and I thought, oh man, this is going to suck. How am I going to deal with this? What looked like a bad luck turned into something good. So here's an explanation straight up of Elon and what he plans for, how he plans to decrease the signal and increase the noise.
I think Elon is incentivized to be the intermediary because that's how he takes a cut. And shout out to Odell because he really picked up on this first. And he says the blue check is the first step in Elon's plan to bring the Chinese social credit score system to the West. Why did Elon buy Twitter for $44 billion? We do not need to speculate. He made his intentions incredibly clear in his first meeting with Twitter employees after his takeover. WeChat of the West. I don't think Elon's incentivized to adopt something like Bitcoin. I think Elon is incentivized to be the intermediary because that's how he takes a cut. That's how he makes regulators happy because, you know, they have more control over the situation. If you allow peer-to-peer to be introduced into the app, by definition, there is no intermediary, right? If there is no intermediary, it's not an easy target for governments to co-opt. You can't rent seek either with peer-to-peer transactions. So I think Elon's a really smart guy. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I think this is part of the motivations that he's not a fan of Bitcoin.
Yeah, Elon's not that smart of a guy, and he knows what he's told to do, and he does what he's told to do. But he publicly said, "I want to make Twitter into the WeChat of the West." So everything that they're doing in China, that they're playing with and experimenting with in China via social credit scores and facial recognition. If you spit on the sidewalk and the camera sees it. They do facial recognition on you, and they send the ticket to your whatever, or they deduct the money directly, for the violation directly from your bank account, and that the communist Chinese can get away with this makes a lot of people in the West really jealous, and they're thinking, well, how can we implement this in the U.S. And the way you're going to implement it is you're going to have to make people beg for it. People have to actually beg for it. Like smartphones, everybody's got to have a smartphone. Everybody loves a smartphone. Everybody's staring into the smartphone all the time, including me. But your smartphone spies on you. It gives your location anywhere you go, as long as the power's on, right? Somebody could find you. And if you start saying something unusual. If you and you've seen videos like this on YouTube, you say dog toys, and then you go to just check a random website, and the banner ad or the advertisement on whatever random website you're looking at says dog toys, even though it has nothing to do, like the website itself has nothing to do with dogs or toys. So, there's been tons of videos like that. So your phone is spying on you constantly, and you keep it with you every day, all the time. And that this is something that like the Soviets could only, like, they couldn't in their wildest dreams, they couldn't imagine something like this. But it's a reality now, because how are you going to live without your cell phone? How are you going to do anything without your fucking cell phone? And this is only going to continue. This is only going to get worse. But they have to figure out a way to make you want it. You know what I mean? So if you're a user of Twitter and you've got a blue check, you can say whatever you want. And there's plenty of blue checks who are members of the tribe that that call for the genocide of other people, that that do all sorts of things against the Twitter terms of service, and you mass report them, but nothing happens. And the reason why is because that blue check for Twitter is the first step to saying this is a protected class. This is a protected class of social media user. And that's what's obvious. What they're doing algorithmically behind the scenes. When I see stuff, man, like in my Facebook feed, I'm still on Facebook. The number of things that are inserted into my scrolling, like suggested for you, like things, amazingly, it's always Pride. You know what I mean? That's the oldest month has been suggested for you, so and so Pride, suggested for you, like a legal marijuana, legalized weed, edible gummy weed, whatever, THC gummies or something. Like fucking shit that I've literally told Facebook, block this, block this, block this, but it just somehow magically keeps coming back, right? It's not magic. They're looking at what you look at, and they're putting in front of you the things they want you to see and they want you to think about. And this is everywhere, all the fucking time. All of this deception and manipulation is directly contrary to Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't need any one of us. The Bitcoin literally doesn't care. And Michael Saylor, as sometimes as otherworldly as his pronouncements may sound, is very likely correct when he says if you own one Bitcoin, you own 1/21 millionth of everything there will ever be. And the reason why is because Wall Street's going to rug you, right? This pile of debt, whether it's $400 trillion of debt or $500 trillion worth of debt, or whatever the amount of debt there is in the world, eventually, when America can't pay its debts and nobody wants American dollars anymore, and nobody wants anything denominated in US dollars, all the people holding that paper, are going to be SOL. You know, you're going to be holding, like, again, like pictures I've shown of Weimar, just like instead of stacks of bills, instead of stacks of currency, it'll be treasury notes, treasury bonds for millions and tens of millions. You know what I mean? Entire countries, Saudi Arabia, China, Taiwan, England, Australia, they have all these piles and piles of US debt, right? They bought treasury bonds, they bought treasury notes or whatever. And, you know, the investors down there are living, you know, off of the interest from that stuff. When America can't pay its interest anymore, that all becomes worthless paper. So what will people do? They're going to go crazy, right? I've said that before. When the money dies, people go crazy. People are going to go crazy, and eventually, after tearing everything up and burning everything that's nearby them, they're going to need a new monetary system. And the question is, will they trust the bankers again? A lot of them will, just out of habit. Like I said, people do what's easy and convenient and socially acceptable. That's what most people are going to do. That's what most normies are going to do all the time. You can't, you know, you're never going to be able to change that. They're going to have to be, it's going to take a lot of pain for Bitcoin to be adopted globally. That's why the places where Bitcoin does best, Africa, El Salvador, Libya, different parts of the world where you don't want to be, you know, where life is really, really hard to begin with. Bitcoin thrives there, absolutely thrives there. And, you know, Venezuela, Argentina, you think, well, that'll never happen to the US, and you're wrong, it will happen. All fiat currencies go to zero, okay? Those promises are all false promises. And for the people issuing them, the people at the top issuing those promises, they'll be into something else. They'll have Bitcoin, or they'll have whatever. They're scarfing it up now, like absolute fucking lunatics. You know what I mean? There's this is you know, where is it? What am I going to show? Whatever. You know what? I'm not going to show it. They're scarfing. They're buying as much of this as they can. You know what I mean? Trying to get as much exposure as they can. And you, if you had a brain in your head, would be doing the same. A couple of weeks ago, when the stream cut out, I was showing a clip from a movie called Cabaret, which was a great movie, and a very classic movie, and it's a good Hollywood depiction of what Weimar Germany was about. And if you're interested in Weimar, and you should be interested in Weimar, you'll like that film. And I think it was directed by, the dance sequences was directed by Bob Fosse. At any rate, in the opening scene, Joel Grey says, outside is cold, but in here it's so hot. We have to fight to keep the girls from taking their clothes off, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, he says, leave your troubles outside. Well, that's coming again. The 21st century version of that, right, is this right here. It's the metaverse, right? This is Mark Zuckerberg, you know, future president of the United States of America, I guarantee. Mark Zuckerberg is, and Facebook is creating the metaverse. And from this ad, I've seen, I don't know how many ads like this in my social media feed. I see it on Instagram all the time. With the metaverse, you will be able to experience life in the Viking era. So basically, you will be able to go into a fantasy world anytime you want. Why is that important? Because like the cabaret was a fantasy world of illicit pleasures, in Berlin, the metaverse, not necessarily going to be quite such fleshy pleasures, but the metaverse will be an escape from the miserable reality of your outside life. That is what they are planning. So I can't deal with that out there. You put on your little goggles and you go away, you go be a Viking, or you go be whatever it is you think you want to be. They'll create some sort of experience which they're hoping will be attractive enough and sticky enough so that you stay there and you don't complain. And that is absolutely what they're going to do. And they're working on this nonstop. They're spending a gazillion fucking dollars on this shit, like literally a gazillion dollars to make this work. Because there's a bunch of problems with those VR goggles. Not the least of which is like if your peripheral vision, if you don't have peripheral vision, a lot of people panic and they feel dizzy and they have trouble breathing and stuff like that. And those VR goggles wrap all the way around your head. So I don't know how they're going to solve that, but nonetheless they'll solve it. And when I tell you Mark Zuckerberg is going to be president, he's going to be president. When I talk about like strategies and ideas from combat sports and shit, it's not because I'm saying it. The reason why I'm saying it is because it's what people are interested in, what people have always been interested in. Okay, Mark Zuckerberg. I remember I showed you a really crappy. Let's show the original. Let's show. Where's the? I have the original one. Do I have the original one? Let's show. Yeah, here. This is 11 seconds. So there's the Zuck and some little Indian guy, not even hardly doing BJJ. Supposedly he defeated his BJJ opponent. What did you see there? You see like a couple of some lousy hand fighting and some crappy collar ties. And that was a big public event. And why would Mark Zuckerberg go and do that? Because he wants everyone to see that. He wants everybody to see that. Well, they haven't given up on the idea. And it's important that Mark Zuckerberg is somebody, man, he rolls with jujitsu. Zuckerberg, he's whatever. He's the MMA. He's going to be the MMA president, like Andrew Tate, but shorter. Here's Monkey Mark, take two. Mark Zuckerberg, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion, take two.
Nice, Mark. There it is.
Wow, look at that. Mark Zuckerberg's all healthy and vigorous. He's a bro. He's going hands-on with whoever. Oh, by the way, that whoever was that guy, Lex Friedman, that Jewish dude who told Kanye that he's wrong about Jews. Kanye, you're a crazy person. The guy who's got 2 million subscribers on YouTube, and he's like literally the most boring person ever. So they're in that's Mark Zuckerberg's private gym or some gym that they rented for the day, right? It's no longer an actual public event where he play fights with an Indian guy. They did a much more choreographed thing where, he's submitting Lex Friedman and Lex Friedman submits him, and then he does a takedown and whatever. So, and they're not doing this. Mark Zuckerberg isn't doing this because he's bored. You got to remember, Mark Zuckerberg was picked by the U.S. government when he was still at Harvard to become a billionaire, right? And to become the CEO of Facebook. So he is the most chosen of all the chosen. And when you see stuff like this, I'm not saying he's going to be president in 2024, right? Or 2028, but it's coming. I guarantee you it's coming. Speaking of which, I started to see stuff from Bitcoin channels that, and some stuff in the news. Oh, there's a resistance against Putin, and then there's like a coup against Putin, and there's the guy who's the head of the Russian mercenary group was going to go read Putin the Riot Act, and they had to stop him, blah, 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 blah. So CIA flexing its muscles trying to do regime change in Russia, and I don't know if they're going to be allowed to do it or not allowed to do it. But I started thinking about why this signal that the Iraq war is going to end. First off, remember, BlackRock has the contract to rebuild Ukraine after the war. So we already know, since BlackRock, right, Zelensky made the deal with BlackRock, you're going to rebuild my country after the war. It means we already know who's going to win, right? It wasn't an actual war. I said it before, Ukraine is bombing for profit. You know what I mean? Bombing for BlackRock's profit. And so it may be that they'll end the war over the summer, you know what I mean? Or right in like September, October. So that way, Joe Biden can go out there and say, I kicked Putin's ass. We defended Ukraine, and we're America, and we stand proud, and we stand tall, blah, 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 democracy. And this helps get Joe Biden reelected, because even though no one's going to believe it and no one gives a shit, they'll go, well, I guess they won the war, might as well. They won't complain when he wins. Like I said, he'll probably win by an even bigger margin than he won against Trump. But all this stuff is going to play out over the next weeks and months, and for Zuckerberg for years. But they're carefully laying the groundwork for President Mark Zuckerberg and the super surveillance state that'll be like the metaverse on steroids. That's absolutely coming, without a doubt. That is coming, and that's why I say focus on the signal, not on the noise. Because if you're holding U.S. dollars or whatever, and you don't have some of that terrorist money called Bitcoin, you're really, really, really regretting it. You're going to regret it. Putting your future, your children's future, your grandchildren's future in the hands of a bunch of Jewish guys at the money printer is just an unwise choice. It's just a really unwise choice. So don't do that, kids. Don't do that at all. What do I got? I got one more. This is the longest clip. I'm kind of liking this guy. He's going to go over. He's going to go over BlackRock, Fidelity, a few other things. But he makes the points I make. But he's got better production values.
If I told you that by tomorrow night you could be more wealthy than you had ever dreamt possible if you did this one thing, would you do that one thing? By the end of this video, you are going to want to exchange your dirty fiat for Bitcoin so fast when you learn what major players controlling trillions of dollars are doing. We've got a thread over here on Twitter that just popped up from Bitcoin Culture at BTC_culture. And they go through some things that they found talking about how BlackRock, Fidelity, Bank of America know some things that we don't. Take a look at these top 10 owners of MicroStrategy Inc. And what is it that MicroStrategy Inc. owns? Bitcoin. Right up here, we've got BlackRock Fund Advisors, we've got Bank of America Securities, and then down a little bit lower, Fidelity Management and Research. Bitcoin Culture explains, looking at the largest holders of MicroStrategy stock, we can see some of the big banks have been buying huge amounts of MicroStrategy in the first quarter of 2023, which we just left the first quarter. Yes, they say that's the same MicroStrategy that is the largest institutional holder of Bitcoin, owning 140,000 Bitcoin, worth over $3 billion. Now, the question you should be asking yourself is, why is MicroStrategy so heavily invested in Bitcoin? And then after that, you should ask yourself, why is Bank of America invested in MicroStrategy? And why is Fidelity invested in MicroStrategy? And why is BlackRock invested in MicroStrategy? What's going on here? With the recent SEC lawsuits and Operation Choke Point 2.0, why are these banks buying stocks correlated to the BTC price? Now, some people just looking at the surface of this might just see surface details. You would see the SEC is going after Coinbase and they're going after Binance. And then you might think, well, hang on here. Coinbase sells Bitcoin and so does Binance. So the SEC is de facto going after Bitcoin. Wrong. That is where you would make a huge mistake. The SEC is not going after Coinbase because they sell Bitcoin. They are not going after Binance because they sell Bitcoin. They are going after those companies because they sell other things, unregistered securities. And knowing the distinction between an unregistered security and a commodity is extremely important. And Bitcoin might not even be a commodity. Michael Saylor describes it as a scarcity, and we have never had a scarcity before. There has never been anything like Bitcoin before in the history of humanity. So what you might want to be asking yourself right now is, what does Michael the Bitcoin Chad Saylor, the people at Fidelity, the people at Bank of America, the people at BlackRock, making their millions of dollars a year, what do they see in investing in MicroStrategy? Continuing, considering there's no ETF in the US, buying MicroStrategy is the easiest way for some US investors to get exposure to the price of Bitcoin. I'm going to explain what that means here real simply. Fidelity, Bank of America, and BlackRock have nothing to do with the making of pancakes. All they care about is what happens with money and how to make more of it. That is their number one mission. Make more money. But they might not have the expertise or the knowledge yet to get into Bitcoin directly, but they see what MicroStrategy is doing. And do you think maybe they pay attention to what Michael Saylor is saying occasionally? If so, it would explain what's going on here a little bit more clearly. Bank of America have curiously increased their exposure to MicroStrategy by 47,800%, nearly 50,000% in quarter one of 2023. Bank of America is the second largest US bank. Now let's take a look at what the world's largest asset manager with over 10 trillion AUM, assets under management, is quietly doing. Bank of America might have a 2.37 stake in MicroStrategy, but BlackRock has a stake in MicroStrategy 3 times larger. BlackRock interestingly holds a 6% stake in MicroStrategy worth over $156 million. And here we get to the oft talked about Fidelity, another giant firm with over 4.5 trillion AUM, assets under management, has also increased its exposure to MicroStrategy by 28,000%. Fidelity has a 1% stake in MSTR. Now, if you're keeping track, that's a total of about 10% between the three of them. You've got 6.24 from BlackRock, 2.37 with Bank of America, and just a smidge over 1 with Fidelity. The thread goes on to say, interestingly, it's not only billion-dollar banks in the US buying MSTR, there is a global appetite for Bitcoin exposure in 2023. Interesting. Didn't we just hear about Strike operating now in more than 60 countries, and then today I heard that they're opening in Mexico? You've got El Salvador using volcano energy, a literal volcano that they're using the geothermal energy from to mine Bitcoin. This is crazy stuff. And then it goes on to say, we can also see that the 6th largest bank in Canada, which that's a tiny nothing country with only 5 people in it, right? Oh wait, no, Canada is a huge country. And the 6th largest bank in Canada now has over $500,000 worth of MicroStrategy in 2023. The important question we should all be asking is, why are these banks doing this in early 2023? And I'll remind Mind you, this is at the same time that the SEC is going after Coinbase and Binance, two of the largest names in the crypto space. And yet, these huge players with trillions in assets under management, AUM, are buying into MicroStrategy, who has the largest holding of Bitcoin of any company. What is going on here? What's going on is that people whose entire livelihoods revolve around moving and managing money are seeing what Bitcoin truly is. You don't throw around this kind of money at speculative projects and moonshot ideas hoping for the best because you just think maybe it'll work out. You only invest these sums of money, these massive, enormous stakes in a company if you think that there's something there. You don't purchase nearly 10% of a company between the three of them if you think it's just a flight of fancy. No. You only make these kind of moves if you pick up on the signal hidden among the noise. And what Binance and Coinbase have been doing is hiding the signal in the noise, and finally the SEC is coming up to clear some of that out. What happens there remains to be seen, but what we know for certain is that Bank of America, Fidelity, and BlackRock, controlling trillions of dollars of asset, are buying into Bitcoin through MicroStrategy. And what that means for you and I is that we should be paying attention to what they're doing, because if they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, then maybe we should do the same.
So that guy, said the same thing I said, or rather, I paraphrased him probably throughout the show. But at any rate, that's what you need to know, and because the world's going to change, and for a lot of people, it's going to get worse. And you don't want to be amongst that group. You know, when Jeff Booth says, well, the system is going to get noisier. Jeff Booth lives in a 95% Caucasian zip code. Noisier to him means unpleasant media. Unpleasant media being played when he's in a room. The system getting noisier for people lower down the socioeconomic ladder is going to be more crime, a lower standard of living, less opportunities for everything, and you can avoid that. You can avoid that by just opting out. And I would hope that you would opt out, because trusting the guys at the money printer is just profoundly unwise. And trusting that, again, the idea that some hero is going to come and rescue you, is going to come rescue the country, the world, that is naive beyond belief. Money isn't everything, but you know what? Try to live without it, right? So anyway, where are we at? We're at 1 hour and 2 minutes. So I think that's pretty much everything I got for this week. But yeah, it's if you're sitting there thinking, well, how come Bitcoin's only 30,000 if all these big guys are getting in? You don't want it to go skyrocket that high that fast, because hyper Bitcoinization means hyperinflation, and you don't really want to live through that. You may think, oh boy, hyperinflation is going to bring Hitler, and then Hitler's going to fix it all. Whether it's Hitler or Spanish Hitler or some other whatever, Curry Muncher Hitler, I don't know who you think's going to. Mark Zuckerberg's going to grow a little mustache. I don't know what you think is going to happen, but that's not going to happen. Hyperinflation is just going to ruin everything. Or high inflation for an extended period of time will just lower everyone's standard of living, with the exception of the BlackRock people and the Fidelity people and the people who have Bitcoin. But everyone else will lose. And then, when the debt bomb explodes, a lot of people's lives are going to be ruined. And so you can avoid that for yourself, and maybe for the people, you care about, if you make the right decisions at the right time. So don't be in such a hot rush to see Bitcoin's price skyrocket, because the higher Bitcoin goes, the worse things are. On the outside world, and the more attractive President Zuckerberg's metaverse is going to be. Yeah. Anyway, with that, I will cue the outro music. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Thank you for your comments in the chat, and I'll talk to you guys next week.